Chosen one, recognition is not lightning, it is clarity. It does not knock you to the ground. It lifts the fog so you can see the road you are already on. After the dance has begun to find its shape, the moment arrives when guessing gives way to knowing. The signs are not theatrical. They are domestic, honest, cumulative. You notice that time with them does not require recovery. You realize you are telling the truth without rehearsing it first. You hear your own laughter, and it does not sound like an audition. The body signals before the mind drafts its memo. Shoulders lower, breath lengthens, appetite steadies. This is recognition, spirit remembering spirit without needing a sales pitch. The world sells recognition as immediate certainty. Heaven practices it as trustworthy continuity. You will not be spared the work of discernment. You will be spared the chaos of doubt masquerading as drama. Pay attention to the way peace behaves. Counterfeit peace is quiet because it has taken hostages. True peace is quiet because nothing vital is being threatened. Counterfeit peace works only when the lights are low. True peace holds in daylight. Counterfeit peace depends on momentum. True peace survives pauses. Sit with them in the pauses. If silence can visit without being taxed for entertainment, you are near the meadow where knowing grows. Recognition introduces you to yourself again. You will hear sentences coming out of your own mouth that you have been trying to believe for years, and now they sound like you. You will see your strengths welcomed without being exploited, your softness handled without being patronized. You will discover a new preference you did not expect. Boredom together is better than excitement alone. This is not a failure of adventure, it is the triumph of home. The love of your life will not compete with your calling. It will make your calling less lonely and more honest. You will work better because you are no longer working to justify your longing. Longing has found a listener. There will be confirmations, some subtle, some as plain as weather. You will make a small plan and keep it without resistance. You will disagree and leave the conversation without contempt appointed to guard the door. You will say no to each other and feel more secure, not less. You will notice how easily both of you repair. A text that owns the sharp edge, a call that arrives without a courtroom, a hand that returns to the table before pride can rehearse its closing argument. These are not charming quirks. They are structural proofs. They say that your bond respects humanity more than it worships heat, and bonds that do that can survive seasons without turning into museums of old photographs. Recognition will ask you to stop auditioning for the future and start building it. Small logistics become sacraments. Calendars bend toward each other. Margins appear around weekends that used to be crowded with the errands of avoidance. Meals become less about performance and more about nourishment. What feeds the body? What feeds the day? What feeds the heart? Prayer returns, not as crisis management, but as orientation. You begin to say we in sentences where I would have been the cheaper syllable, and it does not feel like vanishing. It feels like accuracy. The chosen ones recognize that union is not subtraction. It is geometry that makes more space inside the same frame. Guard against superstition in holy clothes. Numbers, songs, and coincidences will weave a gentle chorus around your days. Enjoy the chorus. Do not let it choose for you. Recognition is not outsourced to omens. It is carried by character. Keep testing for the fruits that cannot be faked for long. Patience that doesn't pout, kindness that remembers names, faithfulness that shows up on ordinary Tuesdays. Stay curious about how both of you treat the smallest commitments. The future is hidden inside how people handle smallness. Love that can honor the small can steward the great without crushing it. Let your circles witness at the right time. Bring this person into rooms that formed your courage and watch how the air behaves. Do your people become kinder in their presence or more defensive? Does your new steadiness make them relieved or suspicious? Pay attention without paranoia. The love of your life will not isolate you. It will integrate you. Integration looks like laughter that includes the old friends, like schedules that make room for family without resentment, like mentors who find themselves blessing you without having to be asked to play the role. Where friction surfaces, address it early. Recognition is not an excuse to ignore work. It is the reason to start it with hope. Do not confuse ease with absence of weight. Love will introduce you to new kinds of responsibility. You will find yourself wanting to be more accurate with money, more honest with time, more careful with speech. You will resist shortcuts because you can see how they would cost more now that two futures are at stake. This seriousness is not heaviness, it is honor. The chosen ones carry glory lightly by taking stewardship seriously. The right person will admire this in you and ask to join the work, not outsource it. If fear visits, and it will, because fear keeps calendars no matter the season, welcome it with proportion. Sit it down, pour it some water, and let it say its piece before you let truth reply. Fear will insist that goodness must be borrowed and paid back with interest. Truth will remind you that goodness given by God is provision, not a loan shark. Fear will show you old films of hurts you have already healed. Truth will invite you to notice how different your responses are now. Fear will ask for a guarantee. Truth will offer you a path. Walk the path. Guarantees belong to idols, paths belong to God. There comes a day when you test the word love in your mouth and it does not feel like counterfeit currency. You say it privately first, to God, to your journal, to the part of you that still distrusts relief. Then you say it to them at the speed of truth. The moment will be quieter than the movies warned, and more revolutionary than your younger self knew. Love, spoken accurately, is not a flare shot into the sky. It is a key turning in a door that both of you will walk through again and again, sometimes laughing, sometimes tired, sometimes late for dinner, and still letting the key click because you want to hear the sound of home. Recognition will be proved over time by how you end days. Not with cliffhangers designed to keep the plot alive, but with benedictions that make tomorrow welcome. You will find yourselves blessing each other's sleep without thinking about it. You will send each other back to your separate pillows with the kind of kindness that does not keep score. In the morning, you will greet each other without a script. Scripts are for actors and seasons of insecurity. Recognition frees you to improvise with the confidence of musicians who share a key. And if you ask for a single test that does not lie, take this one and keep it close. After being with them, are you more yourself in God's presence? Not larger in your legend, not edited into acceptability, more yourself, truer, humbler, more at rest, more brave. If the answer keeps being yes across weather and weeks, you have recognized what the heart prays for when it is done with counterfeit. Move forward with reverence and joy. Keep the pace you promised yourself when your energy was loud and your wisdom was young. You will not miss what is yours at the speed of truth. Chosen one, every gift from God carries its own weather front, and with it comes pressure that reveals structure. This month's favor is warm and fragrant, and yet the first honest breeze will be a test, not of your charm or your appetite, those are already evident, but of your intention. The moment you begin to recognize the one whose frequency answers your own, the world will send lookalikes and shortcuts, old echoes in new clothing, offers that feel like destiny because they rush like it. Do not fear the tests, welcome them as calibrations. Intention is proved where hurry is available and you decline, where flattery is loud and you prefer fruit, where access is cheap and you still pay full price in truth. You will meet attention that treats your high energy like a key to every locked room. Resist being everyone's locksmith. Your current is holy voltage. It was not given to power counterfeit futures. Counterfeits are patient enough to mimic peace for an evening, excellent at quoting your language while ignoring your boundaries, gifted at calling their urgency chemistry and your caution fear. Real recognizes the pace that protects, the no that nourishes, the leaving early that keeps tomorrow sweet. When admiration arrives, let it be sunlight on the porch, not a pry bar at the door. Ask the quiet questions that counterfeits cannot answer for long without changing shape. Does this connection still feel clean when it is not spectacular? Does our honesty survive daylight? Does my reverence for you remain intact when my desire is awake? There are 4 stress tests that do not lie: time, truth, touch, and trust. Time asks, can our warmth stay warm while we move at the speed of sanity? Or must we manufacture crisis to keep the plot alive? Truth asks, can we name what is actually happening without marketing it into legend? And can we confess clumsiness without turning apology into theater? Touch asks, will we treat the body as a temple where consent is climate and covenant is the architecture? refusing to withdraw kindness when restraint is chosen. Trust asks, can we give and receive small responsibilities, schedules, secrets, simple promises, and have them return better than we sent them? You do not need to recite these aloud. Live them until they become your unstudied nature. Intention is not declared, it is demonstrated in these rooms. You will be tempted to prove yourself by generosity that empties you or wisdom that never rests. Do neither. Intention that is healthy builds margins. It leaves conversations before scarcity can bargain. It refuses the sport of ambiguity. It does not audition for the role of savior in someone else's story. Your calling is not to be necessary, it is to be accurate. Accuracy sounds like simple sentences spoken at a human tempo. I honor this and will not hurry it. I feel the pull and won't spend integrity to purchase it faster. I'm grateful and I'm keeping the edges that make gratitude safe. Spoken gently, these are not gates against romance. They are trellises that teach it to grow upward. Let your community be part of the test without turning them into a jury. Invite 2 or 3 whose love has a memory of your worst day and a hope for your best. Let them ask small questions with large consequences. Are you keeping Sabbath while newness is loud? Are you still kind to the barista and the driver when you leave their company? Is your excellence at work becoming more exact because you are steadier, or less exact because you are distracted? Real love makes you more local to your life, not less. It widens capacity, it does not erase fidelity. Chosen ones do not outsource discernment to omens, they anchor it in character, measured by those who have seen the seasons cycle. Financial honesty is one of heaven's favorite laboratories. Watch yourselves around money. It is not romance's enemy, it is romance's interpreter. Can you plan a simple evening without debt disguised as magic? Can you give without turning generosity into leverage? Can you say, not this week, and let dignity remain standing on both sides of the sentence? Budgets are not unsexy. They are vows with numbers. The love of your life is not repelled by arithmetic. They will bless it, because arithmetic becomes architecture when 2 futures intend to share a roof. There will be temptations to turn affection into audience. Resist the platforming of private tenderness. Keep the early weeks small enough to hear. The test here is whether you value being true over being seen. If counsel is needed, choose elders who don't measure wisdom in views. Share moments with God before you share them with an algorithm. Secrets kept for health are different from secrets kept for manipulation. You already know the difference. Your peace tells you. Let it. Conflict will come as a teacher, not an omen. The test is not whether you disagree, but whether you weaponize. Keep nouns precise and motives off limits. Say what happened and how it landed without telling the other who they are. Choose repair over victory and speed over spectacle. Texts that own the sharp edge without a closing argument. Calls that arrive before sunset. Pauses that prevent saying the brilliant sentence you would regret. These are the sacraments of intention under stress. Notice how your high energy behaves here. When it is governed, it powers patience. When it is vain, it powers drama. Choose your power plant. Finally, test your prayers. If your intercession turns into a shopping list for outcomes, return to the altar until it becomes a surrender for alignment. Pray for their flourishing in places that don't benefit you. Pray for their pace, their sleep, their work, their courage with their own story. When you can bless them beyond your access to them, your intention has matured. Love that is ready to last is love that can let God be God without bargaining for the role. Pass these tests not by perfection but by pattern. Perfection performs and resents, pattern repents and repairs. When the month closes, you will not hold a certificate. You will hold a story your future can trust. Your yes will be smaller and stronger, your no will be kinder and quicker. An intention which began as a whisper against the noise will have become a road both of you can walk without breaking pace. Chosen one, after intention is tested and found honest, love asks for depth, not as drama but as density. Deepening is not a plunge, it is a settling. Think of a house whose framing is true. The crew returns to tighten every bolt, to seal every seam against weather, to insulate the rooms so winter is only a visitor. That is what this chapter is for. Your connection is sturdy enough to be quiet now. Quiet is where roots choose directions. Begin by making room for ordinary days to be holy. Grand gestures are easy. Repetition is where devotion proves itself. The deepening looks like showing up at the same hour with the same warmth, returning messages at a speed that tells the truth about your bandwidth, cooking meals that feed more than appetite, leaving spaces in the week where conversation can wander without agenda. This is not anti-romance. It is how romance becomes habitat. Your high energy softens in this cadence, not because it is weaker, but because it finally has a home in which to rest between dances. Create shared liturgies small enough to survive exhaustion and large enough to carry meaning. A walk that summarizes the day and refuses to litigate it. A prayer before parting that blesses what was honest and releases what was clumsy. A weekly practice of asking, "What did you carry this week that I didn't see?" and letting the answer set the evening's pace. The world idolizes novelty. Deepening chooses familiarity on purpose, until familiarity becomes fluency. Fluency lets you speak gently when the vocabulary is hard. Build a commons where both lives can breathe. Calendars bend without breaking. Friends are met without being auditioned for sides. Families are honored without importing old scripts as law. The commons is protected by hospitality and boundary at once. You will say yes to invitations that feed your union and no to those that ask one of you to fracture to attend. The measure is simple. Do we leave more ourselves than we arrived? If not, adjust without apology. Deepening is stewardship of the shared atmosphere. Let work become witness to your love. You will notice excellence rising because steadiness has removed background static. Projects complete because you are no longer hauling identity into every meeting. You schedule rest like infrastructure, not indulgence. You decline opportunities that would pay well in applause but tax the union beyond wisdom. This is not smallness, it is strategy. The future you are building requires energy with an inheritance, not energy constantly rented to strangers. Enter the honest rooms of history together. Tell the stories you usually summarize and let them be long. Name the losses without hiring them as oracles. Name the joys without turning them into idols. Sit with the facts that shaped your reflexes, why you flinch at silence, why you over-explain when you feel accused, why you leave early when rooms grow loud. Offer context as a map, not a defense. Receive context as a gift, not a weapon. Deep water is clear not because it has no sediment, but because it has learned how to settle it. Practice the grammar of repair until it is your accent. When you miss, say so with verbs. I interrupted. I will wait for you to finish next time. I withdrew. I will tell you I'm overwhelmed before I disappear. I escalated. I will ask for a pause before the temperature rises. Repairs that cost you calendar or comfort are the only ones that add weight to trust. Offer them gladly. The point is not to avoid wounds. It is to heal them fast enough that scar tissue does not replace tenderness. Let touch become a liturgy rather than a lever. In deepening, the body is not a negotiation table, it is a chapel. You keep consent as music, not a checklist. You keep pace as protection, not punishment. You learn to read the difference between hunger and holiness, and you choose holiness until hunger becomes holy. The result is not less heat, it is clearer fire. Your high energy offered in honor creates safety spacious enough for delight to stay. You will find that affection becomes restful and rest becomes affectionate. This is covenant rehearsing itself before it is signed. Guard the union from spectacle. Celebrate in circles that can hold the weight of your joy without spending it. Post less than you live. Let privacy be a garden wall, not a moat. People who love you will understand when you say we are keeping this small so it can grow. You do not owe your intimacy to the marketplace. Sacredness is not a scarcity tactic. It is how you avoid turning miracle into merchandise. Generosity is how depth keeps from becoming self-absorption. Give together in ways that make someone else's day lighter. Sponsor a need without explaining yourselves. Volunteer in a rhythm that respects your bandwidth. Write notes that no one will publish. When love learns to leak beyond its edges, it stops imploding under its own beauty. Outward flow is the quiet proof that the inward well is real. Attend to the textures of home. Light that doesn't interrogate. Food that slows the conversation. A corner where a book and a blanket are always speaking terms. Music that remembers not every hour needs lyrics. Order is not control. It is kindness with edges. The more predictable the kindness, the braver the conversation can be. The more beautiful the ordinary, the less pressure you will place on holidays to save you from your habits. Invite God into the middle, not the margins. Pray with your real voices, not your resumes. Ask for help before you need rescue. Thank Him for the boring gifts, because boredom is what thrilled people call peace once they've healed. Read aloud a line that moved you. Share the verse that corrected you. Confess together when glory tempted you to forget who gave it. The presence you practice on quiet Tuesdays will hold you on louder Thursdays when news arrives or plans change. Prepare to carry each other's names into rooms you will never both enter. This is part of deepening's dignity, advocacy without announcement. You will find yourself speaking their goodness in places where it earns them no points and costs you nothing. You will find yourself saying, "I need to get home," not because you are controlled, but because love has become your favorite place to stand. You will discover that faithfulness makes you more free, not less. When seasons shift as they do, keep the ritual of review. Sit on the edge of the bed or the end of the walk and ask, what is working? What has grown heavy? What needs mending? What wants celebrating? Celebrate like people who expect to keep celebrating for years. Mend like people who expect to keep mending with joy. Depth is not an achievement, it is a way of traveling together. And at night, when the house settles and the sky writes its slow sentences, lay the day back into God's hands. Bless the simple mercies, shared meals, shared jokes, shared silence, shared courage. Name the places you felt more yourselves because the others stood near. Ask for more truth than talent, more patience than passion, more holiness than hype. Sleep without guarding the door. Love that is deep knows the watchman better than the night. In the morning you will wake to the same faces and a slightly stronger frame, and you will recognize the quiet miracle for what it is. Two lives deepening not by falling farther, but by standing truer, until the phrase "the love of my life" stops sounding like a wish and starts sounding like your address. Chosen one, there comes a day when guessing loosens its grip and knowing takes a seat. It does not arrive with alarms or spectacle. It settles like morning light that has no need to argue with the dark it replaces. You will notice it first in your breathing. Not the gasps of infatuation or the held breath of performance, but the quiet measure of a body that believes it is allowed to be where it is. Peace and desire learn to share a table without crowding the plates. You look across at the one who has been walking beside you, and the air between you is not a negotiation. It is an answer. Confirmation does not erase your humanity. It reduces the noise around it. There is still calendar and commute, still dishes and delays, but none of these are asked to prove or disprove the holy. The ordinary becomes articulate, speaking in small sentences that point in the same direction. Plans keep happening and do not require theatrics to remain interesting. Silences keep arriving and do not feel like tests. Confessions keep their edges and do not turn into weapons. You find yourselves returning, without memo or mandate, to the same tone of voice that respects both tenderness and truth. That sameness is not dullness, it is continuity, and continuity is what covenant uses to build. The confirmations you receive will be the kind that do not need an audience. A conversation that should have escalated and didn't. A misunderstanding that should have humiliated and didn't. A boundary expressed that should have frozen the room and didn't. Each time this happens, something inside you stands up straighter without getting taller. You are not living on exemptions anymore. You are living on agreements that keep proving they can hold weight. Your high energy begins to hum softer, not because it has been dimmed, but because it has found resonance. Power that has nothing to defend chooses clarity over volume. Your community, when invited in due season, becomes part of the music rather than a jury for the scene. The ones who remember your rough drafts notice that the edits you've made to your life are not cosmetic. The edges that used to cut are sanded. The pauses you used to dread feel pastoral. The generosity you offered strangers begins to live at home without choreography. No one has to be convinced. They watch you attend to each other in unremarkable ways, refilling a glass, defending a boundary, ending the night while affection is still warm. And they exhale for reasons they do not need to explain. Real love places its weight on simple things and finds them still standing in the morning. Confirmation speaks through the body in a language your mind forgot it knew. After time together, you sleep as if the nervous system has been believed. Your appetite for distraction declines because your attention has somewhere honest to sit. You choose better food without a campaign, tidy the corner of your room without a lecture, answer messages on time because you are no longer trying to buy oxygen with availability. Your body stops campaigning to be listened to. It has been heard, and in being heard, it grows quiet enough to carry delight without turning it into a project. God will do what he often does when he wants you to notice something without worshiping the method. He will repeat himself gently. A verse arrives twice from different mouths and lands without fanfare. A long-ignored practice suddenly wants to live again and does not feel like punishment. A phrase you used to say as aspiration comes out of your mouth as description. None of this would convince a skeptic across a table. All of it convinces the part of you that has learned to tell the difference between pressure and promise. You smile at the sky because it seems to be in on it, and then you keep walking at the same pace because confirmation is not a green light for hurry. It is a green light for honesty. There will still be moments of weather. A plan will fail, a tone will miss, an assumption will announce itself late. Confirmation is tested precisely here, where the old stories would have rushed to rename the day a disaster. Instead, you both choose repair over reputation. You lower your voices rather than raising your volume. You say what happened instead of accusing each other of identities. You favor verbs over adjectives. I interrupted, I can wait. I withdrew, I can return. I overpromised, I can plan better. The speed of these repairs becomes one of the loudest signals that you are where you're meant to be. Love that is real is not fragile. It does not avoid splinters. It keeps a gentle toolkit nearby. Money, that blunt translator of values, will join the conversation. Together you will make small decisions that do not mortgage tomorrow for a photograph today. You will give in ways that do not require announcement and save in ways that do not require apology. You will choose dinners that feed instead of impress, holidays that restore instead of perform, schedules that make room for rest the way cities make room for parks. None of this is glamorous. All of this is sacred. The confirmation you seek is hiding inside the arithmetic you practice without resentment. Your high sexual energy, stewarded through all these chapters, will confirm itself by what it refuses to consume. It becomes a shelter instead of a lever. Consent continues to be the music rather than a checkpoint. Pace continues to be the rail rather than a restraint. Affection rests in its own skin. Touch tells the truth about care and does not invoice tomorrow for what it borrowed tonight. You discover that warmth is not smaller when it is governed, it is cleaner. Clean warmth can stay. It grows a memory that blesses you both in the very hour where ungoverned heat would have asked you to forget yourselves. At the end of days like these, your prayer changes tone. You are not bargaining or begging, not presenting evidence to a skeptical heaven. You are returning what you were given in the same condition or better. Thank you for the timing I could not have designed. Thank you for the yeses that stayed yes, because the no's were honored. Thank you for the way our edges held when the weather tried talking us into cleverness. And where you missed the mark, you hand that back too, before it hardens into shame. This is where I wanted to be impressive more than present. This is where I rushed instead of asked. This is where I can be truer tomorrow. Confirmation is not a certificate. It is the freedom to pray without pretending. When you wake, you do not check for a sign. You keep a promise. That is what confirmation ultimately is. The growing ease with which you keep the promises you intend to live by. Your life is answering you back, and its answer is coherent. The path is not without stones, but it is without deceit. You can see far enough to take the next step. You take it, not because you are fearless, but because peace keeps waving you forward like a friend on a porch that used to be a mirage and is now an address. Chosen one, union is not the triumph of spectacle. It is the quiet coronation of stewardship. You do not arrive at it like a celebrity stepping onto a carpet. You step into it like a gardener crossing a threshold at dawn, ready to tend what he loves. The world adores beginnings that can be photographed, but union prefers beginnings that can be repeated. What you have been recognizing becomes something you can name. What you have been pacing becomes something you can plan. What you have been protecting becomes something you can build inside of without fearing collapse. Union asks for vows before it asks for venues. Vows are not only sentences spoken once, they are the daily agreements that teach your mouth how to keep the big words clean. I will tell you the truth at a speed we can afford. I will let my yes be yes without smuggling in a maybe to negotiate with later. I will end my day in a way that keeps tomorrow able to trust me. I will keep consent as our climate, not our checkpoint. I will love you with my calendar and my cash flow and my tone, not only with my adjectives. These promissories become architecture. Walls that warm, doors that open, windows that insist on light. Your high sexual energy takes its rightful throne here, not as a king who changes laws, but as a minister who serves the good of the realm. It animates play and tenderness, creativity and courage. It keeps the faces soft and the laughter unconscripted.